some of our platform this afternoon. So let's see.
A population having lots of, they are systematically taking over Nigeria, and they want to make Nigeria into a Muslim caliphate. And the Fulani ethnic militia, the Muslim terrorists, go into Christian villages. They're not coming in with cattle. They're coming in on motorcycles with AK-47s and killing everything that moves, and then destroying and razing the entire village.
And yelling Allahu Akbar
and yelling Allahu Akbar while doing it. And it has nothing to do with climate change. These are nomadic herders that have 500-year-old view of cattle farming. Nigeria was 70% Christian.
Amazing.
Now it's 50-50. It's 50% Muslim, 50% Christian.
Because they've been killing.
Because they have been going back to their systematic jihad. Now, look, Islam has conquered every civilization it's touched since 640 AD through three methods of jihad. One, cultural jihad. We'll move in, we'll blend in with the population as we're a minority. Then they start gaining a population, having lots of kids. Then once they get a population, they do political jihad. All right?
And cultural.
Then cultural jihad. Then after political jihad, once they have the political cover to do the violence, they go into violent jihad and take over territory. And that is how they have systematically taken over all of Northern Africa.
Well, and what's particularly interesting when you dig a little deeper is that the Fulani tribe doesn't just exist in Nigeria. They're in Sierra Leone and Senegal and right across the border, right? I mean, throughout the center and east of Africa and west.
And for some magical reason, every country they touch turns into war.
Yes, and when you
turns into genocide and turns into war. Every country that they touch.
Okay, a very good afternoon and welcome to 29th day of the month of May 2025. Let's listen back to that again one more time.
Are systematically taking over Nigeria, and they want to make Nigeria into a Muslim caliphate. And the Fulani ethnic militia, the Muslim terrorists, go into Christian villages. They're not coming in with cattle. They're coming in on motorcycles with AK-47s and killing everything that moves, and then destroying and razing the entire village.
And yelling Allahu Akbar
and yelling Allahu Akbar while doing it. And it has nothing to do with climate change. These are nomadic herders that have 500-year-old view of cattle farming. Nigeria was 70% Christian.
Amazing.
Now it's 50-50. It's 50% Muslim, 50% Christian.
Because they've been killing.
Because they have been going back to their systematic jihad. Now, look, Islam has conquered every civilization it's touched since 640 AD through three methods of jihad. One, cultural jihad. We'll move in, we'll blend in with the population as we're a minority. Then they start gaining a population, having lots of kids. Then once they get a population, they do political jihad. All right?
And cultural.
Then cultural jihad. Then after political jihad, once they have the political cover to do the violence, they go into violent jihad and take over territory. And that is how they have systematically taken over all of Northern Africa.
Well, and what's particularly interesting when you dig a little deeper is that the Fulani tribe doesn't just exist in Nigeria. They're in Sierra Leone and Senegal and right across the border, right? I mean, throughout the center and east of Africa and west.
And for some magical reason, every country they touch turns into war.
Yes, and when you
turns into genocide and turns into war. Every country that they touch.
Wow, that is the Fulani right there as we're back again, as we continue our campaign, as we tell the international community that 60 million Yoruba people have now decided that they are going to have their own independent country. I welcome you once again to another edition of our awareness and campaign on the Koiki Media Network as we are continue under the leadership of Professor Akintoye to tell the international community and Africans and anyone that loves the indigenous that the 60 million Yoruba people are now ready to exit Nigeria. Why do we want to leave Nigeria is the question mark that many people have asked. What has gone wrong? Why is it that we do not want to be part of Nigeria? All these we have explained, but we continue to summarize it as we continue to prepare for the D-Day. The broadcast will be about 80% in English because of my audience target, but the Yoruba continue to be our language. So I welcome you once again to the Koiki Media channel. Self-determination, the inalienable right and the right of millions of people around the world, including indigenous people. And we're getting ready. As many continue to ask, what is going to be our own take? What role do I play? Our first role is to tell the next person as we continue to mobilize our people across every part of our villages and cities. As we continue to dialogue and engage, which many people do not understand the meaning of negotiation. At some point there will be negotiation, and those negotiations will finally lead us to our exit from Nigeria. I'm going to play a particular video that I was able to listen to, and this is the United States President Donald Trump during one of his engagements when journalists were asking questions. Many people do not understand what it means when we talk about negotiation. But sometimes we have seen and we have continued to see that many people do ask stupid questions. Those are probably asking those questions are just trying to track or know certain things that is not meant to be in the public domain. Donald Trump was asked a question during his interview, as many of you also do so, especially those that come on the platform and are asking stupid questions. In anything that you do, there will be negotiation. And part of negotiation means that something that favors what you are demanding for. So I want us to listen carefully as we embark on the journey this afternoon. For those of you that are asking when is the rally, I have said it and I said it again. The 60 million are ready, and as we wait patiently from our leader, I don't think we should have anything to be worried about. There's no concern up there. I spoke to Professor Akintoye just about a few hours ago. I haven't been able to speak to Igboho today, but I can assure every single one of us that the rally will be announced at the appropriate time and date. Whether it is May, whether it is not May, the end goal is that the Yoruba wants to leave Nigeria and we will eventually have our own independent country. That is the end goal of the rally. But one thing is, whatever we are doing right now, we are still engaging, creating awareness and preparing your mind to exit Nigeria. Once again, the broadcast will be 80% in English. Let's kickstart with this, and after that, I will then play the Yoruba anthem. This was Donald Trump, as a stupid journalist was asking a stupid question.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out under tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff. And they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, you know, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead.
Wall Street analysts have
And that
pointed
goes to millions of Yoruba people that are asking Professor Akintoye a very nasty question. That why do we want a Yoruba country? I have told you this is your platform that would engage you internationally. Stop being stupid. And as we kickstart this afternoon, you should sit back and watch and listen and follow all the details and stop behaving stupidly, because we are not stupid. And if you want to be stupid, we will treat you as a stupid man or woman for asking Baba Akintoye, the leader of the Yoruba self-determination, when, how, what does he want to do with a crazy country that was put together where there's no love, there's no unity, and blood continues to spill.
There is no land called Nigeria. There is no language called Nigeria. There are no people called Nigerians. We are only deceiving ourselves.
We are not Nigerian.
Okay, where is Nigeria? Where is the land called Nigeria? What is the Nigerian language? We are nations that had been forced together to live in one pathetic country. So anybody who goes there today to say, pray for Nigeria, that person is just deceiving himself, because the people who want to be that Nigeria had not sat down to agree if they want to be Nigeria.
And since we have not agreed, 60 million Yoruba people have now agreed under Baba Akintoye, the Yoruba self-determination movement, to exit Nigeria peacefully at all the four corners, from Kwara to Kogi to Ondo to Ekiti to Osun to Lagos, as we continue to prepare and gear up for the massive engagement for our outing at the appropriate time. What you should be doing is continue to mobilize and fully prepared, rather than asking nasty and stupid questions. Baba Akintoye is smart, is intelligent. Igbowo knows what they are doing. They are capable of what they have engaged in. As Donald Trump said, stop asking nasty questions, because America was a dead country 6 months ago under the failure of Joe Biden. And as we have already said many times, under the 2 years democracy, it has been dead, it has been pain, it has been very, very chaotic. And Tinubu cannot govern a country where there is no unity. A very good afternoon and welcome once again. Share the program and invite others to do so.
God
60 million Yoruba people are now being fully prepared as we would all exit together out of the contraction that Britain, under a fraudulent amalgamation on the 1st of January, that has now created pain across every part of Yoruba land. We will now exit this country peacefully in no time without our politicians, because they will not listen. So what we do, as we tell the international world, the international community, that the 60 million that are ready will determine their fate under the self-determination rules of engagement. And that is exactly what is going to happen anytime soon, as we continue to negotiate and discuss and engage on the reason why Yoruba exit is now or never. The Yoruba will leave Nigeria. There's no doubt about it in our mind. How is the question that many people want to know. The doubtful-minded people, those that do not understand what and how international policy works around the globe. But what we do on this platform is to teach them how diplomacy, how engagement with countries around the globe is done. If you are still a Yoruba person and believing that there is a country that will work under this failed administration and the previous ones, you better start taking your mind back home, because the only solution to all the problems that we have today is for the Yoruba people to exit Nigeria now before it is too late. Millions of us are waiting for the clarion call under the leadership of Professor Akintoye. But while we are diligently waiting, we must remind you that the enemies are also waiting to hear the good news. And what is the good news? The good news path to prosperity, on how a government would work, a government that you can hold accountable compared to the ones that have run since 1960. The government that represents you, the government that you can call out during crisis, during pain, the government that appreciates the identity of its citizen, the government that loves what is called equality. But today, what many of you have not enjoyed in the last 26 years of a fraudulent democracy, a government of intimidation, government that the world knows exactly the truth and only the truth, but yet refuse to accept that Nigeria is not a one country. And I take you straight, just about few hours precisely yesterday, not few hours, yesterday, coming to my wire desk, that the same America that fought themselves to be free from United Kingdom continue to deceive millions of indigenous people to remain in a country where the security has become one of the biggest threats to humanity. If anybody is open and thinking that any country will save you from the current crisis of Nigeria, what they would do is just to portray the diplomatic line by deceiving millions of Nigerians with their Twitter handle and communicate as they've done for the last 60 years of this crazy country called Nigeria that was forced into an amalgamation. And as usual, the American government representative in Nigeria have done the same thing. They've kept quiet. If one person is killed in America, we know the reaction of the American government. But since Nigeria is not a country, the American government can continue to tell lies and deceive you. But the leadership of Abakitoye is telling you the truth and nothing but the truth. Your life will remain not safe should we continue to live in one Nigeria. And this is the communique, as we have read many of such communique, with nobody being held accountable for the death of indigenous people from Plateau State to Borno to the southwest. American government has released another communique, and it goes like this. The US mission in Nigeria, on their Twitter handle known as the X official, the United States Embassy in Nigeria is deeply saddened by the condemned recent act of violence in Borno State. That is not violent. American government is telling lies. That is a terrorist attack. And terrorist attack is something that will not bring unity and create the enabling environment for businesses, neither for those that live in that country, if Nigeria was even a country at the first stage. And also in Imo State, and the most recent in Benue and Plateau, as the Fulani jihadis have now gone into the high scale of suicide bomber. And the news breaking out just about a few hours ago today, I will be telling you what you need to know. This is coming on the channel's television today, the 29th of May, 2029. The Nigerian military, 18 soldiers, 15 police officers are now selling weapons to the terrorists. We know this before. We warned those in Lagos State. Lagos is one of their trade routes. I'll be telling you more for those that are concerned to know. The ongoing threat faced by communities and community leaders in Nigeria are deeply troubling. It will continue because Nigeria is not a country. But rather than the United States of America to come out and speak the truth, they are not going to do so because of their own interest in the current state of what is known as a fake country called Nigeria. So if anybody's waiting that America is coming to rescue you, you will all die one by one, according to T.Y. Danjuma. We extend our heartfelt condolences to all those affected by this senseless act. Again, it's normal. That is what they will tell you. We condone until the indigenous people are wiped off as Fulani did in 1806 to the Hausa kingdom. If you wait for America, you will all die one by one. We look to the Nigerian authority to conduct a thorough investigation to hold those responsible accountable. American government thinks they can still fool us in 21st century. Who are they going to hold accountable? You tell me. American government cannot hold anybody accountable because they know that there's nobody to hold accountable. Because the country is so much divided. And the truth needs to be told to the American government that it is time that they look into the indigenous people request from the Biafra to the Yoruba to the Hausa to the Ijaw and those that wants to be free. Because freedom must be at the backbone if America truly loves the indigenous people. Rather continue to release nonsense communique about condolences to the communities that have been affected by the terrorist attack on a daily basis that there is no government that can take care of our people. So we are telling American government today, the 29th of May 2025, that the 60 million Yoruba people will shut down the Southwest at the appropriate time as we wait for the clarion call of our leader. And we would have no other choice to take the bull by the horn, just like America did with the United Kingdom in 1774, when they fought to take back their own freedom. Like I said, the broadcast is not just for you. I am communicating to the international audience, and this is going to be 80% in English. The United States stand with Nigeria in effort to promote peace. Stop telling lies to us, United States. We can never find peace in Nigeria. Rather, we would all continue to fight each other for the disunity and the distrust that Britain embedded across every part of the region. And this takes me back to Ango Abdullahi. Dissolution is the solution. It is time for us to exercise the power of sovereignty that we have wasted and sold under the guise spurious elections over the years. As the criminal politicians across Nigeria continue to gain momentum to prepare the 2027 election, knowing fully well that four things will continue to stand if this is not addressed. Nigerians should be preparing for a civil war in 2027. Rather than us wait for 2027 civil war, we will be coming out when our leaders have given the orders, and we will have to wait for them to give that order. Because according to Ango Abdullahi, it is better we have a peaceful dissolution now before it is too late. Otherwise, Nigeria gunpowder will be exploded in 2027 due to some of this reason. Bloodletting, distrust, insincerity, and the false pretense at unity. We can never be united, and we will not be united because Germany will not want France to live in the same country with them when they speak different languages. You cannot put the Italian and the Spanish people together and tell them to have unity. But what they've done in the last 35 years of the European Union is each one has their own sovereignty. And under their sovereignty, they've been able to do what they call trade, negotiation, and come together under one body known as the European Union. But the same United Kingdom that gave the room for their citizens to exit what are known as the Brexit exit are now telling indigenous people to continue with a fraudulent election that can never save anybody. Let me take you back to how the result came out after the European Union decided that if the UK wants to leave and have their own sovereignty and shut down their borders, they have all the right, but their citizens must be given the same opportunity to decide their fate. But today, the leadership of Abakitoye has now addressed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that the unity of one Nigeria is no longer viable in his own interest. It will be better for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to allow a peaceful dissolution of Nigeria. If otherwise, Nigeria will go the same direction like Yugoslavia. And that is what Babakitoye is advising Tinubu in the letter dated 25th of May 2025, which is 4 days ago, and this is the final warning to him. that the Yoruba self-determination movement, a public letter to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to now come into a roundtable discussion with the 60 million Yoruba people that are tired and fed up of the lies of what UK created that has never given us the unity, the sincerity, and the false pretenses that we are one. So when a country like America is telling us that the United States stands with Nigeria in its effort to promote peace, American government, there will never be peace in Nigeria. A war is going to break up very soon, and we are calling your attention not to come and negotiate, but just for you to know ahead that for you to continue to tell the indigenous people that there will be peace, you are literally promoting what could end up become the next Sudan and the next Somalia in Nigeria. The Biafra War of 1967 will be a short chain to what is going to happen, as unity is no longer embedded in Nigeria today. Everybody knows that. The Hausa are now fighting to take control back of what they lost in 1806 of the Fulani invasion and the killings by Usman Dan Fodio that continue the same agenda with the current 20th Shaitan of Sokoto that is controlling all the Fulanis across the southwest and those in the Sahel to come down to Nigeria and take the land that belongs to them. Just like Buhari, the former president, encouraged all the Fulanis that their new home is Nigeria and they can come in without any question. That has led to many killings and the insecurity that we found ourselves. As Dangote is used to promote this terrorism, as more are brought down from Castina to cut grass in Lagos State. Now we know why the news is coming out today that Lagos State is one of the states out of the 11 states that 18 soldiers, 15 police officers are trading arms. I'll be telling you more about that. But as we prepare the 60 million to the final stage of when we would get our country, our own independent country, because we never gained independence in 1960. Britain knew quite well there is nothing called independent when the first election was rigged in 1959, and evidence continued to point out. As Bill Clinton said, and I quote, "You can tell lies to those that you want to tell lies to, but you cannot hold the people that wants to be free." It is better that we let the indigenous people to be free because of the mistake that they did during the Biafra War. This time around, nobody will be able to stop the dissolution and the de-amalgamation of Nigeria. And this is what Bill Clinton said in one of his interviews some few years back.
But our historic memory includes the notion that the British states were under Ivan, Peter the Great, and Catherine the Great. In other words, when you could control your neighbors. And people don't want to be controlled.
People don't want to be controlled. If Tinubu thinks he can control Nigerians, he cannot control the indigenous people that own the ancestral land. The ancestral land belongs to the 60 million people. And under the leadership of Babakitoye, the Yoruba will be free forever. With Tinubu or without Tinubu, as we have now given him the final letter that needs for him to know that we are now at the crossroad, which says no going back.
They want to be free to chart their own course.
They want to be free to chart their own course. The Biafra wants to chart their own course. The Hausa wants to chart their own course. The Oduduwa wants to chart their own course, the Ijaw. Putting us together under one bracket called Nigeria that is bloodletting, distrust and sincerity and false pretense at unity, according to Ango Abdullah. What is unity with question mark? We have all in various degrees suffered in this British fraudulent amalgamation. and we are saying it loud and clear. 60 million Yoruba people will rise against the injustice that has taken place for the last 110 years of what was never negotiated. Our forefathers never negotiated this amalgamation, and we will pull out of this structure if anybody think otherwise. You better start thinking in the right direction. Nothing binds us together in Nigeria. Yoruba are not Igbos. That is why the British citizens were given the opportunity whether they want to remain as a one country still under the European Union. And a referendum was conducted. And this referendum was given to those to have their say. And the result came back within a very short, limited time after the election that was never rigged. Compared to election across Nigeria where ballot boxes are stolen, as millions of people suffer the injustice of a fake country called Nigeria. And this was how the result came out after the election of the European Union, when the British citizens conducted a referendum. For those that want to leave, say ha, and those that doesn't want to go, say nay. But the I had it with 51.9%. Out of the total number of those that lives in the United Kingdom in terms of their population, as at the time, the population as at 2016 was 65.16 million. But out of that, 17,410,742 voted for yes, we want to leave the European Union. The number was slightly just high compared to 48.1% that wanted to remain. 16,141,241 were given the privilege to vote, but their vote could not supersede those that wanted to go. And that means within the day that the UK announced the result, the previous passport that the British citizens had that had the emblem of the European Union stopped to exist, to travel. And that will be the same when the Yoruba nation is declared. Nigerian passport will no longer be valid for any of the 60 million Yoruba people. Our own passport would then have to be used to travel across the globe as we wish to. For those of you that do not know what is coming, prepare your mind, because the end of Nigeria is about to be witnessed by 60 million indigenous people. If you're a Yoruba in Brazil, prepare for a new nation. If you're in Cuba, prepare for a new nation. If you're in Argentina, the Yoruba people have now spoken. The 60 million that are ready to exit the fraudulent amalgamation that Britain thought will last forever. We will leave Nigeria and we will have our own independent country. And the federal government would have to respect such, because Nigeria was only embedded only in 1914. The Yoruba people have been existing for the last 14,000 years plus. There is nothing called Nigeria. The Oduduwa children have now spoken, and spoken directly to the world, and the message continues to be filtered on a daily basis. Under the leadership of Baba Akintoye, a Yoruba nation will be declared. And when that declaration happens, that means the end of Nigeria will not exist across the four corners of Yoruba land. UK votes to leave EU by 52 to 48%. And that means in Scotland, it was 38 to leave and 62 to remain. In Wales, you can see the same numbers. 52 to leave, 47. So that means that there was some part of United Kingdom that did not love to remain one country that wanted to leave the European Union market, and that is Scotland. And that is why today the Scottish continue to push for their exit out of the United Kingdom because they were deceived. They were given the opportunity 2 years before the European Union with the hope that they would have the privilege to have left. But because they were given the false hope, just like millions of Nigerians today are given false hope that Nigeria will still be great, even though every single one of us know there's nothing called greatness out of a country that was never meant to be. And today, as the Scottish continue now to fight to be free from the union of what is known as the United Kingdom, the struggle for them continue while our own struggle is winding down. Until then, we will continue to mobilize and wait for our leaders. But going back to Bill Clinton, and let's finish hearing what he has to say then.
I'll never forget the first time a man with impeccable military credentials, the warden of Rhodes House, that was Admiral Viscount Montgomery's aide de camp in World War II, said, you know, you're going to have to leave Vietnam.
You're going to have to leave Vietnam. America thought they could defeat the world. The World War II, Vietnamese told America, this is our ancestral land, and we will defend it with our blood. And that's exactly what is going to happen on the ancestral land of Yoruba land. We will have no other choice than to defend the land, to be free from the bondage and the shackles of the fraudulent 1914 amalgamation.
For the same reason we had to leave Nigeria.
The same way they left Nigeria, but this time around, the American government says, and I quote again, that as much as they are feeling for those that have been massacred across Nigeria, the United States stands with Nigeria in its effort to promote peace, security, and respect for human rights across the country. America knows that's a lie. They know that because it's not a one country and there will never be any human right. And let me take you to one of the instances that many of you probably might not know. Deborah was killed in Nigeria because of her view as a Christian. She was lynched to death, Deborah Yakubu. She died 2022, May 12. She was killed in Sokoto State. That means we can never have the same relationship with those that doesn't have the same ideology with us. Till date, Deborah has not got justice. And I don't think any justice is going to happen. Let me read that out to you as we have it according to the Council Foreign Relations. Gruesome, blaspheming killing brings Nigeria long-running ethno-religious divided into sharp focus. This was posted on the 16th of May 2022, some few days after Deborah was killed to death. Last week, according to the article, gruesome murder of Deborah Yakubu, and a home economics student at the Shehu Shagari College of Education, Sokoto State. We have no business with Sokoto State. We are Yorubas. If our country decides to have a relationship in the near future, our citizens will be advised, just as the UK advised their citizens on the threat level going to Nigeria. Why then do we, the Yoruba indigenous people, want to remain in a country where we cannot be able to tell our citizens the truth? That the safety and security in Nigeria today remain zero, and your life is likely to go one at a time. This is the UK foreign travel to Nigeria as of today. Terrorism. There is a high threat of terrorist attack globally affecting the UK interest. But the UK doesn't care about the Yoruba interest, doesn't care about the Biafra, the Hausa, the Ijaw. And yet, UK continue to work as the green snake under the green grass, promoting one fake unity in a country where disaster continue to happen on a daily basis. May the soul of those that died in Abia State rest in peace when a billboard collapsed and killed innocent people in that particular state. Terrorism in Nigeria, according to the Commonwealth and Foreign Travel to Nigeria. Terrorists are very likely to try to carry out attacks in Nigeria. The same UK still want to keep one Nigeria because the UK government knows that a Yoruba country would defend their citizens and anyone that wants to live in our territory, just like the UK have done frequently after the 2006 terrorist attack in London. But today, the same UK continue to deceive millions of Nigerians by telling them that you can come if you are qualified to work in the UK, but yet advising their citizens of an imminent attack across every part of Nigeria today. Two-faced is you call those kind of individuals. And that is why we are saying to the United Kingdom, we will forge ahead with you or without you to what will eventually lead to our declaration to opt out finally and have our own independent country. 60 million Yoruba people are now ready to push forward and leave Nigeria, and it's going to happen. We don't need to consult anybody because all consultation has already been done, and we will now wait for further information from our leaders above. The primary terrorist threats in Nigeria come from Islamic State, West Africa, ISWAP, and Boko Haram. These are very deadly terrorists. As I was reading these early hours of this morning, a report coming from Kwara State, is not new, that a farmer saw as terrorists were receiving weapons with an helicopter that landed in a particular local government in Kwara State. This was on the 24th of this month. You wonder where the DSS, the police, but now we know where they are because they are the same that are selling weapons that would eventually be used to attack and kill innocent Nigerians. As the report continued to come out that police and the military are the one selling weapons that have now been used to attack and kill innocent indigenous people. And this is what I can tell you from the report I got from Kwara State. Last week, Saturday, precisely, at Isin local government area of Kwara State, Edidi town, a farmer, as he was on his farm, tilting his land, preparing for the harvest, because we are already in the rainy season, noticed an helicopter very low, below on his head. Wonder what is going on. While he was still looking up, at that point, someone moved closer to him with an AK-47 and asked him, what has his own got to do with the helicopter? Because since he's not the one expecting the helicopter, he has no reason, but forgetting that this man owns the farm. By the time the man realized what was going on, he fled for his life, left his motorbike. This was last week, Saturday, in Kwara State, Yoruba land, as we have said it enough, that 24th of May, there was an helicopter that landed at Isin, local government area of Kwara State, Ididi town. Weapons loaded, weapons given to kill indigenous people. Now we know, as Channels Television and all the mainstream media have picked on it, Nigerian military soldiers and the Nigerian police force, these are meant to be the ones to protect us, are the ones trading the weapons with the terrorists. And let me quickly read that to you before we go back to what happened again in Kwara State. The military said the exercise was conducted across 11 states out of the 36 states. Thank you so much for the super chat. With the suspect arrested in Bauchi, Benue, Ebonyi, and your favorite state, Lagos State, is not left behind. Now I know while a military-grade explosive took place in Idiaraba in Mushin some few weeks back. Till date, Sanwo-Olu, the Lagos State governor, has kept mute because they kept covering up. And as they do, it is difficult for them to control the social media where the truth is now said across many Nigerians that are now asking the question, should we be discussing 2027 at this particular stage in this country? Or is it not appropriate for us to look into whether we still want to be one? Or if we don't want to be one, what is the next thing? Because according to the senior advocate of Nigeria, Abakoba, said, and I quote, President Tinubu cannot fix Nigeria after 2 years. You know what? Listen to this, I come back.
He needs to put his best foot forward to govern the country. If he does that, in 4 years, he can turn things around. But there are certain critical things he would need to do. The first thing is to say, what's the Constitution? If, for instance, me and my wife Lillian don't agree in our marriage of 45 years, then we can't do anything. So the first thing that President Tinubu would need to do is to ensure that Nigerians all agree to be one country. You recall that Bolagi asked those two questions. Do we want to be one?
It's a simple question that everybody among all the criminal politicians are running away from. Do we want to be one? It's not something that we should shy away from. It's something that we should be proud. If we want to be one, how? Since we don't know whether we want to be one, then the final solution, as the 60 million Yoruba people are ready to now exit Nigeria, because we cannot live in a country where the threat level remains high, as even the British said in their communique to their citizens. The primary terrorist threat in Nigeria comes from the ISWAP and the Boko Haram. Now we also have the Maharuda. We have seen them on TikTok. They continue heavy ransom, kill innocent indigenous people across all parts of Nigeria. But rather than Nigerians to be asking the question, do we want to be one? Everybody is still again pushing for a fraudulent election that will explode, as the Fulanese knows that the end game is getting closer, and that will lead to a lot of massacre. These groups are mainly based in the Northeast, but that's a lie, because British doesn't want to update its own record. I told you already, Britain is a country that speaks with both its nose and the anus, because Britain knew quite well that something drastic took place sometime in December in Osun State. Till date, nobody is hearing anything anymore, because the government continued to keep quiet and mute on it. It has gone past 60 days, yet if it was ordinary people calling for self-determination, they would have swept them straight to Abuja and tortured them, and sometimes innocent IPOB have been killed because they're asking for their right to self-determination. And that's a fact, whether you like them or not. Their right will be respected, as our own right will be respected. You cannot be calling for Yoruba nation and hate the IPOB, thinking that because the government of a fraudulent country called Nigeria label them as a terrorist. Why has America not labeled them as terrorists? Why has the UK, that knew very well that the Biafra means what it takes to exit Nigeria, the end of Nigeria is going to happen, and we will all have to have our own new nation. And these nations will then be used to trade, to work. The British citizens still have the right to travel to European Union market. As we saw just last week, when the UK Prime Minister said, and I quote, that we still want to work with the British, with the exit that we created ourselves, but we still want the UK British exit market. And that means that something took place a week ago, and according to the Euro News, as I have it in front of me, the EU, European Union, and the United Kingdom has now agreed to rethink post-Brexit exit carbon and power market. The question you should be asking is, we can still exit Nigeria and we can still have cordial trade between us and the Biafra, the Hausas, and the Ijaw. But rather than having a 36 state that cannot take care of its people, UK did a good deal back with the same market that they left in 2016. Like I told you earlier, when their citizens were given the right to either want to remain or exit, the choice was to exit. Why are we scared? Who is worried? Why don't you want Nigeria to break? Is the question that is in the lips of millions of us. But we know, because Britain continued to monopolize our kings and tell them that a Yoruba country is not ripe enough yet. And I'm giving you a fact of information that continue to come on my desk, that they should convince their people to stay put with Nigeria until Bola Tinubu and see what would happen. Britain knew that Bola Tinubu would exit Nigeria after 2031, and the power will not go to the southeast because nobody trusts the Igbos with power, in as much as we call them same citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But the same Igbos would not be given the chance, as we can see what they are already playing out. Don't be deceived by any of the criminal politicians. Power will return back to the north, and the north is Fulani. There's nothing called Hausa. The Hausas have all been killed and taken out, as all the rulership in the north today, from Sultan to your governors, are all Fulani background. So if the UK is still working deals to support their citizens across the United Kingdom, we can do the same thing. We can still leave Nigeria. But the UK refused to update and tell its citizens that even a Yoruba land is no longer safe for a citizen, knowing fully well that we have millions of Yoruba people that are living in the UK that also have the privilege to have a British passport. Why is the British government lying by not updating the website that says, and I quote, that Southwest is now also compromised by the Fulani terrorists? But I am telling you today, if you are a British citizen and you are Yoruba origin, there is terrorist attack across Yoruba land, and you are likely to be killed and you are likely to be kidnapped. As I speak to you, a 90-year-old king from Okun in Kogi State is still under negotiation whether he will return back home alive or not. And if you doubt what I say, there are many instances of those that came from abroad and never made it back home. One of them is this man called Mr. Benga Wolabi. Listen to how he was crying for help when he came from Maryland to look into his business. As many of you are now preparing for Udioba, you can be kidnapped and be killed. But the British citizen is not advising a citizen that are Yorubas They are only telling us that the northern part of Nigeria is the only one at threat. But be rest assured that the southwest is no longer the place you left it last week, even if you left Nigeria last week. There is terrorists in Oyo State. Governor of Oyo State told us that they are 2 kilometers away from him. There's terrorists in Ogun State. There's terrorists in Lagos State, as we have now been confirming that 18 soldiers, 15 police officers, and we all know, for them to give us the number of 18, you multiply that by 3, which is the normal norm in Nigeria. That means even the government does not know how many of their weapons are now being used by terrorists to kill and attack innocent citizens. But listen to the audio clip that we save on our archive. How Mr. Gbenga Olabi, the same day he arrived from Maryland, traveled to Ogbomoso, his body returned back to the family. Not just him. We had other people that died in that particular killing by the Fulanis. Some wanted to pin it on his family, just as you might also be killed or kidnapped, and they might tell you your family is involved. Do not believe that nonsense. Fulani has now invaded the whole of the southwest, but the British government is not telling you. I am telling you right now.
What can you tell me? What can you tell me now? So what are you doing? Okay, let me.
I've been reading maybe 1.4 million, right?
I'm dying tonight. I want to know for anything. I want to know for anything. She wants so much to pay.
One $1 táwọn tó pè fún mi lówó.
And just leave me. Like I said, I'm busy working before me. But if you could be, I want me to want to demand you flow,
And eventually he died. Even though money was raised by his friends, family, but he didn't make it out. I am just adding all these for those of you that probably think otherwise, that another election under Tinubu will save your life. Tinubu's life will be saved. He's well protected. Even if you think that the soldier that you are being told that will protect you, according to the reports that we've known before, let's listen to this man. Former Navy officer, Comrade Kunle Olawumi.
It's not about sentiment. Is that there are a group of people in this country that feels that this country should be Islamized. This is a fact. I said you want me to start mentioning names of people in this government that we have interrogated. I was a member of an interrogation team, and I've interrogated a very high-ranking member of this government in 2007, 2008 on the issue of Boko Haram. I interrogated him. He's in this government.
Thank you so much, Celestial TV, and those of you that have joined us so far. And welcome once again as we continue to push ahead with the 60 million Yoruba people that have now decided they've had enough of this country that was never meant to be for us. Like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, I am directing it to millions of those that have had Nigeria before, either good, bad, or ugly. That 60 million out of the Nigerians that you know, that are known as the indigenous people called the Yorubas, are now gearing up to live and have their own independent country on their own ancestral land, called Yoruba land, Oduduwa land, that have been existing for more than 14,000 years until the fraudulent Britain joined it together. And we will take it by peace or by whatever means that we are going to. What you can do is not to be worried or concerned, because Nigeria is not a country. It's a failed country that was amalgamated by force for the interest and the selfish interest of Britain. For more than 200 years of their empire, what they did was destroy borders from India to Pakistan to Bangladesh, to every part that you can think of, the hands of whatever is happening around the world today. Britain and the rest of them, European countries, are all involved. You should not be concerned, because we, the Yorubas, will engage and have cordial relationship with each of your country and your citizens. You would have the privilege to visit a very beautiful land that has magnificent rocks, waterfalls, and many things that you've never seen across the globe. But we advise you not to travel now, due to the fact that Nigeria is going through the last final straw of its collapse. And by the time we start building our own developed Oduduwa land, we will need your expertise to walk in line with our own skills, indigenous citizens. We will share ideas together. We would want you to visit a Yoruba land, a Oduduwa Republic, from Ile-Ife to Oyo, to Ondo, to Ekiti, to Kwara, to Kogi, to Ogun State, to Lagos State. We don't want you to visit a place where you will have security that follow you back to back. We want you to visit a Yoruba land that has the mountain, that has the nice weather, where you can run a good business with a great economy. That is what you should be worried about, how you want to be involved. But if you are still one of those that think because of your own selfish interest and wants to keep Nigeria as their own part of a criminal gang, be rest assured that will not be tolerated in a new country. Because across the globe, countries are defending their borders. As we heard Donald Trump says, and I quote, when the nasty journalist went ahead to ask him nasty questions, as many of you continue to ask nasty questions, rather than preparing for the great day ahead, the D-Day, when our life will change, where you can challenge your representatives like I do in the United Kingdom. This is called negotiation. We will not negotiate with Tinubu. We would exit with him or without him. A letter has been sent to him on a final note that the Yoruba people, under the leadership of Professor Akintoye, might still want to negotiate. But if he does not want to negotiate and wants to push us into another election in 2027, that will not be tolerated. As the 60 million Yoruba people have now said it all, we are going ahead to declare and have our own country and defend it with our blood and make sure that it doesn't slip away again from our hands. And this is again what Donald Trump said to this nasty journalist, that America has changed after it has been dead for 6 months during the previous administration. I am not here to defend Donald Trump, but I just want to put this on record for those of you that continue to look at Baba Akintoye and think he doesn't know what he's doing. He's still in charge. He's fully in charge, and there's no problem at the top. For those of you that are saying that the rally is called for May, what is going on? Like I said to you, we are more intelligent than them, and we are not going to give away all our details as the government thinks he wants to know. But let's continue to mobilize, because the rally is coming. When? You wait.
All these chickens out under tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out? I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number, and I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till
Oh, sorry.
July. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead.
Just like Nigeria has been stone cold dead for 110 years. Do you know what that means? The indigenous people have not been given the right to do exactly what they would have loved to do.
We had a dead country.
You've had a dead country as Britain knew that. But rather than Britain to tell the truth today, the same Britain continued to deceive millions of us. Some were able to gain their passport, citizenship, and they care less about the rest of the 60 million people at home. But that 60 million have now said, this suffering, this pain that you have created, this havoc that you have given us, we have now come to conclusion that it must come to an end. And that is why everybody is running helter and skelter, asking, is there not going to be any more rally? What is going on? But those of us that are determined and focused should understand that the game between us and them, we've already defeated them in the first leg. We're taking it back now to the second leg. And that means the second leg is the final straw to break the camel's back. The Yorubas are going on. And there's no doubt about it. The government can have whatever preparation. They failed in preparing to defeat the Fulani terrorists. They cannot defeat the Yorubas. 60 million that have now called the shot and say, do we want to be one country? I don't think we want to be one country. And if you ever still think we want to be one country, listen to Dr. Anna Ugu, as she explained their own side of how the Biafra has suffered because of what?
They wanted to be separate from the country that the British Empire had imposed on us, which was this country of Nigeria, where they kind of took a bunch of independent nations who don't have anything to do with each other.
Took a bunch of people together. We don't have anything in common. We don't have the same language. And you expect to fix the problem, he will not dare do so, even if his intention is to do so. Because the control from Shaitan of Sokoto, that is the son of the forefather of those that invaded Hausa kingdom, doesn't want you to be free. And today, Dr. Ugu is explaining this in one of our interviews in America, that they joined a bunch of people that doesn't have the same thing in common. So if you are still someone that loves Nigeria, this is the time now to support the Biafra, the Oduduwa, and the Hausas, and the Ijaws. If you have friends that are Nigerians, these are indigenous people that Britain forced together, do not have the same thing in common. And Nigeria died in 2014. And we are going to bury it before 2027. No matter what is going to be the obstacle, no matter what the government will prepare, the millions of Yoruba people will speak out in one voice. Our Yoruba exit that will lead to our declaration out of Nigeria. And that is the final straw. And that is what you should go and prepare for, rather than wasting your energy and time trying to find out what our leaders want to do. Our leaders at the top are not confused, like your government that have been in confusion for 10 years of a fraudulent APC from Buhari to Tinubu, and the fraudulent PDP for 16 years, making it 26 years of your life being under bondage, that Babaki Toye wants to rescue to become an independent Yoruba country that will give you what you need to be humans. Because right now, today, millions of you are not humans, even though we are all created in a created way, far better than the Europeans. Because Babaki Toye told us and made it known that the Yoruba people have been civilized thousands of years before all the European countries that are now dictating. How can Estonia be dictating to Yoruba people under Nigeria a way forward? These are countries that are not even up to some of our local government. We will rise up together and defeat the monster that have taken away our land, that wants to control our language, that wants to steal our identity. And anyone that crosses our path will be destroyed from top to bottom. The 60 million people are fully gearing up. It does not matter when it's going to happen. If you cross our path, you will be crushed as the elephant crushed any animal that come across him in the deep forest. Stay clear out of the way as we are gearing up. Soldiers that cannot protect us, do not cross our path. You will all be crushed to death, because death is going to overshadow millions of you. If you dare try to cross our path, you will be destroyed. Whether you're a king, or you're a ballet, or politician, 60 million people will destroy and crush you. Every word I say is what they're telling me to tell you. The Yoruba people have never been defeated in war. And this time around, you will not be able to defeat us.
They don't even speak each other's language, don't relate. Many of them were even enemies and warring at the time. Smushed them all together and drew these arbitrary lines around them and called them countries and named those countries.
And name them a country. Who is behind all this atrocity? It's only one country. And we know their intention. We would that intention because the indigenous people from Biafra, the Oduduwa, the Hausa, and those that doesn't want to go, if you think that you will work against us as children of politicians, we will crush you to death. You will be the first target. We would have no other choice, because that means you are not a Yoruba man. You are a Fulani man. Nigeria doesn't have a land. The politicians have deceived us for too long. Listen to this.
Senator Manto, can I just quickly clarify? Did I hear you say that you helped rig elections before now?
Let me tell you one thing. Yes, I did. Because I'm now confessing the truth. Look, what do I mean? I don't have to go and change election. But you know, when you provide money, you give money to INEC boys to help you if they see any chance that they should favor you. You provide money to the security. All our elections in the past, I've been in this game for about 40 years. And I tell you, each time, it's not necessarily when I'm contesting election, but when my party sponsors a candidate, I would like that candidate to win election. And what we used to do before, we make provision for INEC, we make provision for security, we make provision for even agents of other parties, so that they will not, raise any objection to whatever we're able to get. So whether I rig myself or not, by providing those resources, financial inducement, to the officials, I am rigging election.
Do you think that we can diminish or remove that influence?
You cannot diminish or remove it because election will be rigged again in 2027. We know that. It is part and parcel of what Britain started. And Senator Mantu knows very well that nobody can stop the rigging of election that will determine even the fake country moving forward. The 29th day of the month of May, the 60 million are gathering and preparing to say goodbye to a country that have lived under pain and disaster, under force majeure that will now say enough is enough, under false pretense, as many people want unity. And like I said, what unity with a question mark, according to Ango Abdullahi? Dissolution is the solution. It is time for us to exercise the power of sovereignty that we have wasted and sold under the guise of spurious elections over the years. As Ango Abdullahi said in the summary, in his various write-up, this 1914 amalgamation isn't working, and therefore it has to be dissolved. A peaceful dissolution is the next recourse. This imperfectly 1914 amalgamation that brought in the Yoruba groups of kingdoms, the Caliphate, Emirate nations, the Igbo, Republican state, and other smaller nations have gone through continuous bloodletting, distrust, insincerity, and false pretense at unity. What unity? With a question mark. We have all in various degrees suffered nothing bind us together. No common ancestral origin, language, culture, way of life, dress, food preparation, and governance before the creation of the 1914 by the Europeans. We know how the British took the River Niger and Benue, and how France took the other part as they were dividing what everybody is calling Africa today during the scramble for Africa. We know how the name Nigeria was formed together by Flora Shaw, how the name published in the Times of London in 1897. We will all be better off if we are dissolved, so that each will work within their own countries, according to their wishes and their laws. Whoever wants to use the Arabic law to run their country can do so. While those of us that wants to govern our people so that they can progress. You can never have any dream of future in Nigeria. And this is why this individual, Oluwole Ajala, says a call is for dissolution through a referendum. What every Nigerian should be talking about is what will lead us to our new nation. Having a new nation is going to be a pride for Africa and the international world, because it will represent you under your own identity. Because Nigeria doesn't have any identity, neither does it have any land. Nigeria has been bleeding, and it will bleed to death, and we will not be able to revive it back with oxygen, as many of you have lost your loved ones in hospital due to lack of oxygen. The country is going through the final stage of its burial, because we will and we must all together, the 60 million of us, bury Nigeria so that we can have a better future that we call our own But if you're still one of those that is fighting against this, what you should understand as you are fighting 60 million Yoruba people that have now confirmed that they want to exit Nigeria, either by peace or by whatever means to take back their land. This is a direct message to everyone around the world today that have got to do or know or heard about the name Nigeria. That name was not who we are. We are indigenous people as Yoruba, Biafra, Hausa, Ijo, Tiv, Kanuri, and many more. And our existence will have to be respected when the Yoruba pushed out. And if anything comes across our side to stop it, the 60 million will have to crush it to death. And that is the message this afternoon for those that needs to know and those that care to hear. We might not have the time to repeat some of these broadcasts, but to all the mainstream media around the world, to the friends of those that you know in Nigeria, this is a clearing call. The Yorubas are fully gearing up, and we will exit Nigeria. Thank you very much. My name is Ola Yomi Koiki, popularly known as Koiki Media. I will be back again. Like I said at the beginning, this is a broadcast to all the billions of people around the world. Whether you can hear it today, or it might take you after we have declared our country, the record stated it clearly that Britain cannot force a union on us that we never negotiated. And we are forging ahead as indigenous people to own our own independent country. And on that note, I would like to thank those of you that have listened and those of you that are waiting for the D-Day of a full declaration of Yoruba country. But before then, the rally will be called as we wait for our leader. Thank you very much. God bless Yoruba people, and God bless every single one of you. Bye for now.